It was June 6, 1944, the fateful day when Allied forces launched the largest amphibious invasion in history, known as D-Day. I found myself among the brave soldiers storming the beaches of Normandy, France. The moment our landing craft hit the shore, chaos erupted. Bullets whizzed overhead, explosions shook the ground, and the cries of wounded men filled the air. We pushed forward, our determination unwavering. The beach was a deadly battleground, littered with obstacles and defended by the Nazis. Every step was a gamble, every decision a matter of life and death. The sand became stained with blood, and the ocean turned crimson with the sacrifice of countless brave soldiers. Amidst the cacophony of war, I glimpsed an abandoned house just beyond the shoreline. Instinct kicked in, urging me to seek cover. I sprinted toward the structure, heart pounding in my chest. As I burst through the door, I took a moment to catch my breath, the sound of gunfire fading into the distance. Inside the house, a grim silence reigned. The air was heavy with the stench of fear and desperation. The walls bore the scars of conflict, riddled with bullet holes and shattered glass. I cautiously made my way through the rooms, expecting danger at every turn. A sudden noise shattered the stillness, and I froze in my tracks. Footsteps echoed through the hallway. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I sought refuge behind a tattered curtain. I held my breath, praying that luck would be on my side. The door swung open and a Nazi soldier stepped inside, his boots thudding heavily against the wooden floor. His face was etched with a sinister determination, and his eyes burned with a fanatical loyalty to the Reich. I clutched my weapon tightly, preparing myself for the inevitable confrontation. Time seemed to stretch as the Nazi soldier's gaze swept across the room, his eyes stopping just short of my hiding spot. My heart pounded in my ears, drowning out all other sounds. I knew that any movement or noise would betray my presence, and the consequences would be dire. As if sensing my fear, the soldier paused, his brow furrowing. I watched in silent agony as he slowly turned his head, his eyes narrowing. A bead of sweat rolled down my forehead, threatening to give me away. It was a moment frozen in time, teetering on the precipice of life and death. With a sudden jolt, the soldier lunged toward the curtain, his hand reaching out to snatch it away. Instinct took over, and I sprang into action, my training kicking in. We grappled with a desperate intensity, each fighting for survival. Blows rained down on both sides, and pain surged through my body. It was a brutal dance of life and death where every move held the weight of the world. The room became a battleground, the walls witnessing the struggle between good and evil. In a final burst of strength, I managed to overpower the Nazi soldier, sending him crashing to the ground. Gasping for breath, I stood over him, my heart pounding in my chest. The room fell silent once more, and a wave of conflicting emotions washed over me. Leaving the house behind, I rejoined my comrades in the relentless battle for Normandy. The once serene village now resembled a charred inferno, its streets littered with debris and the fallen. We pressed forward, determined to achieve victory, haunted by the memories of those lost in the flames of war.
The bitter winter of 1944 blanketed the Ardennes forest as my unit took position on a desolate hillside. The Battle of the Bulge was in full swing, and the fate of the Allied forces hung in the balance. The cold gnawed at my bones, but my resolve remained unyielding as I peered through the scope of my rifle, scanning the enemy lines. From my vantage point, I witnessed the German war machine in motion. Columns of soldiers marched with an air of confidence, their breath visible in the frigid air. They were closing in on our positions, their determination palpable even from a distance. With each passing moment, the tension in the air grew thicker. The fate of countless lives rested on the squeeze of a trigger. I adjusted the sights on my rifle, fine-tuning my aim. The weight of responsibility settled on my shoulders as I prepared to engage the enemy. As the first Nazi soldier came into view, I took a steadying breath, my finger gently resting on the trigger. Time slowed to a crawl, the world narrowing down to a single point of focus. The distant rumble of artillery and the bitter wind faded into the background, leaving only the sniper's gaze. I squeezed the trigger, the rifle recoiling against my shoulder. The bullet found its mark, striking the soldier square in the chest. Panic erupted among the enemy ranks as they scrambled for cover. Their illusion of invincibility shattered in an instant. The battlefield became a theater of chaos and confusion. Unfazed by the mayhem, I fired again and again. Each shot was a calculated dance of precision and timing. The relentless crack of gunfire echoed through the forest as my bullets found their intended targets. The enemy had met the wrath of a nameless sniper, hidden amidst the shadows. But the Nazis were not easily deterred. They regrouped, their resolve unshaken. The gap between us closed and the intensity of the battle escalated. Their determination sent a shiver down my spine as I realized the gravity of the situation. With every passing moment, the enemy drew nearer, their presence a looming threat. Fear gripped my heart, but I knew I had to act swiftly. I abandoned my position, sprinting towards a nearby bunker. Bullets whizzed past me, their deadly symphony filling the air. Adrenaline surged through my veins as I dove for cover, narrowly avoiding a hail of gunfire. In the relative safety of the bunker, I caught my breath, sweat mingling with the frigid cold. From this vantage point, I watched the enemy advance, their numbers seemingly endless. In the heart of the Ardennes forest, the battle raged on. The clash of steel, the crack of gunfire, and the thunderous explosions echoed through the trees, a symphony of war that seemed to defy the very essence of life. It was a fight for survival, a struggle against the forces of darkness that threatened to consume us.
It was the spring of 1945, and the flames of war continued to rage across Europe. As our unit received orders to infiltrate a heavily fortified Nazi stronghold deep within Germany, a sense of trepidation mingled with our determination. The mission was a crucial one, with the potential to turn the tide of the war in our favor. Under the cover of darkness, we parachuted into enemy territory, our bodies floating down like shadows descending upon the earth. The frigid air bit at our skin, and the weight of uncertainty hung heavy in our hearts. We regrouped on the ground, our faces etched with resolve, knowing that the odds were stacked against us. Navigating through dense forests, we moved swiftly and silently, relying on our training and instincts to avoid Nazi patrols. Each step was laced with caution, every rustle of leaves sending our senses into overdrive. The tension in the air was palpable as we made our way closer to the target. Days turned into nights, and nights bled into days as we closed in on the fortress. We established hidden observation posts, meticulously monitoring the enemy's movements and gathering intelligence. Our presence behind enemy lines was a delicate dance, a constant balancing act between remaining undetected and achieving our objectives. One fateful night, as we huddled in a cramped hideout, we overheard snippets of conversation from a passing group of Nazi soldiers. Their voices carried a sense of urgency, speaking of a high-ranking officer due to arrive at the stronghold. It was an opportunity too significant to ignore. We knew that eliminating this key figure would cripple the enemy's operations and demoralize their forces. With renewed determination, we devised a plan, meticulously examining every detail and accounting for every possible outcome. We knew that the window of opportunity would be narrow, and failure was not an option. Under the cover of darkness, we moved with calculated precision, weaving through the labyrinthine network of trenches and barbed wire. The fortress loomed before us, its imposing walls a testament to the enemy's strength. But we were undeterred, propelled forward by a shared purpose and the belief in our cause. Cloaked in shadows, we infiltrated the heavily guarded compound, navigating the intricate web of checkpoints and patrols. The night air crackled with tension, and every sound magnified in our ears. The stakes had never been higher, the consequences of failure more severe. As we neared our target, our hearts pounded in our chests, the adrenaline coursing through our veins. We moved like phantoms, silently eliminating sentries one by one, their bodies crumpling noiselessly to the ground. The enemy's defenses had been breached, and the path to our objective lay open. Finally, we found ourselves standing on the precipice of the officers' quarters, our eyes locked on the door. The moment was charged with anticipation, each passing second feeling like an eternity. We shared a final glance, a silent reminder of the risks we had undertaken and the lives we had left behind. With a silent nod, we burst into the room, weapons raised and determination etched on our faces. The officer stood at attention, a portrait of arrogance and authority. His face contorted with rage and disbelief as he realized the grave threat that stood before him. The room became a battleground, the air filled with the symphony of gunfire and the clash of steel. The enemy guards fought valiantly, their loyalty unwavering, but we were driven by a relentless purpose. Blow by blow, shot by shot, we engaged in a desperate struggle for survival. In the midst of the chaos, I locked eyes with the high-ranking officer, a cold glint of desperation in his gaze. It was a moment of reckoning where the weight of our shared history hung heavily between us. With each strike, I fought not only for my own survival, but also to end the reign of terror this officer represented. Finally, with one decisive blow, I managed to overcome the officer's defenses. Time seemed to stand still as his body crumpled to the ground, his once proud stature reduced to a lifeless heap. The room fell silent, save for the ragged breaths of our weary team. As we made our escape from the fortress, alarms blared, and the enemy's forces mobilized in a desperate frenzy. We disappeared into the night, leaving behind a trail of chaos and confusion. The stronghold was shaken, its aura of invincibility shattered. Days turned into weeks, and the war neared its final climax. The news of our successful mission spread, a testament to the courage and resilience of those who fought behind enemy lines. Our actions had dealt a significant blow to the Nazi war machine, heralding the inevitable collapse of their regime. As we marched toward victory, our spirits were bolstered by the knowledge that we had played a vital role in shaping the course of history.